lava. So in 2018, a fissure started erupting on the East Rift Zone on the Big Island. And it was an area that was a lava zone previously but had since been built over. So lots of homes. There was this beautiful area called Kapoho, which had amazing like hot pools and tide pools. Well, it's now gone, unfortunately. Mm-hmm. So anyway, Fissure 8 starts erupting. It splits into two, and it basically cuts off a several thousand acre area, homes, people, and this lava flow is moving very quickly, 20 miles an hour. So within a 24-hour period is about 3 miles up the coast. Like it's moving slower at the front, but like essentially cuts off this entire area. State and feds arrive right away. They start helicoptering people and different people out. People, plants, pets, whatever the people are holding dear. And then a cattle rancher had been cut off. And there was still 50 plus animals left between these two flows. And you can imagine, like, it looked like Mordor on the ground. Like, sulfur was terrible. There was lava bombs. The fissure was constantly spewing at about 100 to 200 feet.
Oh my God.
Yeah. So, like, I think the
it's not a simmer.
No, it was 20, I think they said it was 26,000 cubic meters of like lava per like minute. It was absurd. It was like one of the fastest moving flows they'd ever seen. So anyway, a rancher did his best job to get the majority of his cows out, but there are 50 plus animals trapped between these two lava flows.
And that's when you saw the bat signal in the sky.
Well, kind of. And we had happened about a year ago to develop the first of its kind live capture net system that with a helicopter, you can essentially pick up cows live and get them out of there. So if you can imagine a cone-shaped net with a 20-foot diameter frame on the bottom, and it's hanging from a 100-foot line below a helicopter. And so a helicopter's moving, and this net is kind of flowing back and forth, and you place the net over the cow, and then there's a switch at the top of the cone, and there's two lines. And then as the animal tries to move outside, you let the first switch go is at the top of the cone, and the net basically falls on top of it, and you just pick up the frame, and it's essentially sitting in a big bag, evenly distributed, and then you fly it out, and you put this bag down, and you put the frame over it, and it just stands up and walks away.
Got it. So the frame is basically a rectangle or a square?
It's an octagon, yeah.
Yeah, octagon.
Yeah.
Okay, got it.
Yeah. So federal, PETA, everybody gets a hold of us and says, like, we need to get these cows out of here. And we were...
That's because it was known, at least to some subset of folks, that you developed this live capture system.
We were previously using it to try and get cows out of high elevation critical watershed areas where they were causing like extensive damage. So they get a hold of us, they run us through like what they want us to do. Of course, I had to like sit down with the team and say like, do you want to try and rescue cows over a 20 mile per hour lava flow? And I think one of the guys turned over and he's like, we would get to be a lava cowboy. And I was like, oh man, who's going to say no to that one? And ended up like doing our due diligence. It was pretty safe to do. Long story short, we got them all out, but the first couple of days were so intense. And the very first cow, so we're driving out there in the morning. It literally looks like Mordor. Like the flow is creating its own weather system. It's raining. It's dark. Like it's a 2 mile flow. So it's like lighting up the entire area in like dark red. And you're driving towards it and you're thinking like, oh, and you're passing like all these National Guards. You're just like, this doesn't seem like a great idea on your way out.
Yeah.
And we get all loaded up in the morning. The head of PETA's there. Like it's this huge thing. There had been so much loss already. They had lost that entire community. Hundreds of homes gone. And there had been so much loss. And the community was kind of starting to gather around this idea of these things that were left behind, we could actually get them. And get there in the morning. We get all set up. Get dialed in with the pilot. He had actually never done it before, but it was the only helicopter big enough that we could pick up those particular cows. His name is Calvin Dorn. He's just an absolute legend. So we fly out first thing in the morning, like heading towards Fissure 8. It's fountaining 200 feet in the air. Like there's lava bombs like that look like they're going at the height of the helicopter. The cows are trapped like right underneath it. There's video of this. We can
put it in the show notes.
Oh man,
for people.
It's crazy. And he goes to pick up the first cow, grabs the first cow, does it all right. And then he goes to lift and he's like, oh, this might be too heavy.
Oh no.
And this like, I have my sulfur dioxide, like have my monitors on, like we're not supposed to get on the ground.
Mm-hmm.
And the net is attached to the helicopter. And he's like, what do we do? And I was like, well, give it another tug, see if you can get it off the ground. So he gives it another tug and he like gets it a little bit off the ground. And I'm like, okay, can we head downhill and you can get some elevation? He's like, here's what we're going to do. We're going to use the heat from the lava flow to give us a boost.
Ride the thermals.
We're going to ride the thermals up with this cow underneath us. And it should give us a big enough boost. We'll have enough elevation. And then like, we'll be able to get down to the corral system.
It's crazy enough that it just might work.
Yeah, and I'm thinking, I mean, you don't really have a choice. You're like, sure, let's try that. So he gets this cow off the ground and he's moving at like a good speed and we're picking up a little bit of elevation and I can see like the lava flow coming at like 500 yards, 400 yards, 300 yards. And we hit the flow and it's like somebody kicked us in the nuts. We just went straight up in the air. There was so much heat coming off the flow. And I looked down to see what was happening to the cow because the cow is 100 feet lower than us.
Yeah.
And this cow swings out. And then as it passes over the top of the flow, all we see is just like smoke.
Oh, no.
And I thought like the head of PETA is sitting down
watching
here,
a
like,
cow get vaporized.
like I'm going to jail. Something terrible is going to happen to us. This thing is over. And we gain elevation and we start to come out over the flow. And I'm looking down. I'm like, oh God. And I had forgotten that it was pouring rain.
Ah, right.
And it was soaked. And all of that water, like it just instantly vaporized. And it looked like the whole thing was essentially like on fire for a second. So we come out and like I see all of the water vapor clear and I'm like, oh, thank God. And come down, land that animal, gets out, walks away, happy as can be. And then I think we got like 7 or 8 more that day before they kind of shut us down and it got a little crazy. And we ended up getting all 50 animals out of that place.
Wow.
And happened to be one of the most intense moments of my life. Certainly maybe not the most dangerous, but I thought we were in a lot of trouble for that one. But it was just such a like viscerally intense scenario.
Yeah.
You have like these lava bombs going off and these 2 flows but a really cool experience in that community. Like there was this celebration when everything for months had been just a lot of loss.